So on page 13, we're gonna just review some of the things we've been learning in class. So for Think A, we're gonna write S if the group of words is a sentence, write F if the group of words is a fragment, and write RO if the group of words is a run-on. So let's have, I'm gonna use popsicle sticks. You're gonna read it and then tell me what it is. So Lucas, read number 1.
One paddle wheel on each side of the boat. Sentence.
Not quite. Fragment, because it's not,
Yeah.
it's saying one paddle wheel on each side of the boat. Okay, well, what about it? Doesn't really say anything about it. Number 2, Marissa is not here. Number 2, Matthew. Read number 2 and then tell us what it is.
River, steep boat are called side wheels, steering.
Steamers.
A sentence.
Yes, that is a sentence. It has a subject and a verb. Number 3, Nicholas.
Robert Livingston and Robert
Fulton.
Understood the benefits of steam travel. Run-on?
No. I mean, it's a long sentence, but it's not a run-on. Robert Livingston and Robert Fulton understood the benefits of steam travel. Not a run-on, it is a sentence. So put an S.
Number 2 is a sentence.
Yes.
Too, right?
And number 4, Mason.
Mr. Fulton succeeded in the steamboat when Mr. Livingston did a run-on.
Yes, that is a run-on because it is putting 2 sentences and making it into one when it should be 2 sentences. Think B, you're going to mark the circle next to the kind of sentence. Use proofreader's marks to insert missing punctuation. So let's determine what kind of sentence it is, and then we'll put the punctuation in. So, number 1, Dylan. Can you read that for us? What kind of sentence is that?
Interrogative.
Correct. Interrogative. And what are we going to insert at the end of our sentence? Dylan, what are we going to insert at the end?
A question.
Correct. So after umbrella, you're going to insert a question mark. Number 2 is Jana. What's that? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Braden?
Umbrellas were first used as protection from the sun, not the rain. Declarative.
Yes. So what will we insert at the end?
Period.
A period. So you know those old-timey photos you see women carrying umbrellas? They're actually using it as a sun guard. They didn't have sunscreen, so they used an umbrella, which is still a good idea. Actually, I was at the beach this summer, and I used an umbrella one day because it was so hot.
Number 2 is imperative.
Number 2 is declarative. It's just declaring. Number 3, Jed.
Remember to take your umbrella today. Imperative. Put a period after the Y in today.
Yes, that's imperative. It's telling you to do something. Jacob, do you have a question?
I don't know if this is true or if it's the other way around, but I think white, if you wear white, it reflects the sun, but if you wear black, it takes in the sun.
Right.
That's
Yeah, it
actually-
absorbs. Yeah, black is actually feels hotter when you wear it.
So that's
That's
why
the
every
sun.
winter I wear black sometimes.
Okay. And number 4, Mackenzie.
Oh, this is terrible.
Mm-hmm. Exclamatory, and what will we put at the end of our sentence? An exclamation point. Good. Now turn to page 14. We're going to correct each run-on sentence by adding an introductory word. Use proofreader's marks to mark lowercase, delete the connecting words, and insert a comma. So for number 1, Jensen, can you tell me how we can fix that run-on sentence?
I was not prepared for this.
All right, we'll read it first and then tell us. That's why I use popsicle sticks. That way you never know when your name's going to be
We
called.
made dinner and then we took it to our neighbors.
Okay, so what should we do first? Are there some words in there that we should delete?
We would delete that.
Right. Remember how we delete? We draw a line through it with a curly.
We would add a period after dinner. And we
Okay.
would capitalize the W.
Okay, a comma after dinner, right?
Oh, comma.
Yeah. Yeah, comma. Because it's as if we're putting 2 sentences together, but we're doing it correctly. So we'd say, we made dinner. Well, first we need to do a introductory word. What could we put before the word we? Because when we take out these words here, we should add an introductory word to the beginning. And you can look back, and we also did it in our,
After we took it to our neighbors.
right, yeah, that's a good idea. After, so put that in your blank. And then the we would have to do what? To the W. Okay. Okay, so check it. Okay, we'll check it with us, make sure. So after, and then lowercase the we, right? So we need to delete, or no, not delete. Draw a line through it and write LC for lowercase. So after we made dinner, comma, we took it to our new neighbors. I didn't write out the whole sentence, but this is what you should do. Put an after in the blank, lowercase w, dinner, comma, and then that's it. And delete and then. Number 2, Logan.
I students.
Okay, it says
I studied my spelling test
my spelling list diligently.
diligently, so I made a good grade on the test. Delete and so.
Mhm.
Insert a comma.
Good. Actually, you know what? You're right. I should have inserted the comma here. Insert.
Then
What's an introductory word we could use at the beginning of that sentence?
because
Very good. And then it still needs to stay capitalized, right?
So.
Because
cross
I is
out
always
the
capital.
LC.
No, we don't
No.
do lowercase, because I needs to be capitalized. So it would read like this: because I studied my spelling list diligently, I made a good grade on the test. That's how you would read number 2. Number 3, Noah. My grandparents live in Maine, and so I went to visit them last summer.
Cross out answer.
Mm-hmm.
Insert comma after name.
Okay. What's a good introductory word you could write?
Because.
Correct, because, that's a great one. Well, okay, because, or we could say since, so I'm trying to find, okay. The introductory words they give us, remember we wrote in our journal, after, although, because, if, since, when, and while. So, how about since we did because here, let's do since.
Or maybe although.
Yeah. Now this one, you use because when you do something and then something happens because of it. So if you study your spelling list, you'll get a good grade, right? So that's a because. Now since is almost like a time word. So since my grandparents live in Maine, I went to visit them last summer. So, and then what else do we do?
Lowercase. The M and I.
Right. So you're gonna cross out the M in my and write LC for lowercase. Because we have a new first word now.
Wait.
So it should be, since my grandparents live in Maine, comma, I went to visit them last summer.
At the beginning.
Lowercase m, right there. Think D says, correct each run together sentence by using proofreader's marks to delete connecting words, mark capitalization, and then insert punctuation. So for number 1, let's have Lucy.
Mr. Lawrence collected our test and then we lined up for music class. Delete and then.
Good.
And after test we put a period.
Okay.
And then we capitalize the W and
Good. Now, in this case, we're going to make them 2 different sentences. We're not connecting them together. So we're going to delete and then we're going to insert a period because this is going to be our sentence. Mr. Lund collected our test, period. And then we
capitalize it.
needs to be capitalized. So we put 3 lines under the W.
And it's
Okay? Number 2 is the last rays of sunlight slipped away and then night owls began calling through the darkness. Micah. Number 2 on Think B. Delete and then. What else do we do? No, just delete and then, but we're gonna add a period before that. So that our first sentence is the last rays of sunlight slipped away, period. Right, and then capitalize the N in night. Number 3, Jacob.
Cross out and so,
Mhm.
and insert period after the name, and capitalize everything.
Capitalize everyone, good. Very good. Think E. Use proofreader's marks to insert commas where they are needed. So, number 1, read the sentence and then tell us where to put commas. Alex.
Okay,
Read the sentence first.
have you been to our nation's capital?
Olivia.
Olivia.
Have you been to our nation's capital, Olivia? Where should we put the comma?
Right after capital.
Yes. After capital, which is before Olivia, because we're talking to Olivia. So we put commas around her name. And since it's at the end of the sentence, you don't put a comma after her name because there's a question mark there. So we put one before her name. Number 2, Autumn.
Gather on the campfire everyone, and we will toast marshmallows. So a comma after campfire and before everyone and after everyone.
Right. So we're talking to everyone, so we're going to put a comma before and after everyone.
In the middle.
Gather around the campfire, everyone, and we will toast marshmallows. Insert a comma before and after everyone.
Which way should they be going?
What do you mean? Like this. So insert a comma here, and
No,
insert
that
a
one.
comma here. All right, everyone out of turn, so some of you are going to have a second turn. Number 3, Logan. Read it first.
Yes, Grandma. Yes, Grandma. I would be glad to help you. Put a comma before and after Grandma.
Good. Before and after Grandma, because you're talking to Grandma. Now, if it said, I would love to help my Grandma, would you use a comma? No, because you're not talking to Grandma, you're talking about Grandma. So there's a difference. Number 4, Jana is, I don't have a book. Lucy.
No, we do not have enough snow to make a snowman. Put a comma after that.
Correct. So at the beginning of a sentence, when you have yes or no, you put a comma after it. Number 5, Micah.
Put a comma.
No, read it first.
Your cousin Jacob is coming to visit me.
Oh, Mason, you have a cousin named Jacob?
Jacob, you have a cousin named
Okay, so where do we put the comma, Micah?
Before Mason.
Correct. Before Mason. Because we're talking to Mason. So we're talking about Jacob to Mason. So we don't put commas around Jacob. We put them before Mason,
Pretty easy.
because that's who we're talking to.
This one, that one,
Well, a comma, just like here. Insert a comma.
oh, that one.
Yes. And then right F says, find the answer to the riddle by rearranging the words in the box. The first word is already capitalized. So hint, hint. Why did the elephant turn around in the airport and go home? How can we write that sentence, Jed?
He forgot
Now,
to
Go ahead, but I hear other people than Jed saying the answer.
he forgot to pack his trunk.
Yes. Get it? Elephants have trunks. He forgot to pack his trunk. So write that down. Okay. Now, let me just give you a little bit of warning about Friday's language test. Just like we had on our page here, some of the exercises had more than one thing that you had to do. Some you had to add punctuation and tell what kind of sentence. If you miss adding punctuation, that's points off for every question. So you need to make sure that you follow the directions on your test. Okay? So tomorrow we'll do a review game, another one, and then Friday will be your language test.